Welcome and thank you for joining me in this video. The topic of today's video is 5 things to consider when choosing the executor under your will. My name is Fred Long. I am a Pennsylvania estate planning attorney. And the first thing that we're going to talk about before we dive into the important characteristics or the important things to think about when choosing your executor is, what does an executor even do? The executor's role is to what's called marshal the assets. So gather all of the assets in the estate, bring them together into one place, and then pay off any liabilities if there's any debt. That could include medical bills, it could include credit card balances, it could include final bills related to home ownership, for example, maybe a mortgage or standard bills that come in for electric, trash, recycling, cable, internet, things like that, closing out those accounts, paying any tax liability, and then ultimately distributing the remaining assets according to the provisions within your will. So what kinds of things should you be thinking about when you're going through the process of choosing your executor? The first consideration is more of a quality in the executor, and the person that you're choosing, whether that's a loved one, a family member, or a professional, is somebody who you trust. And this kind of goes without saying. This person will have significant control over the assets in your estate. And it's a bonus if other people in your life, particularly the beneficiaries that you've named in your will, also have that same level of trust for the person that you've chosen. And the reason for that is it can significantly reduce the likelihood that there will be issues with the administration of your estate. If people have a natural trust for the person that's managing the estate, they're less likely to question the decisions that they're making, to worry about any nefarious conduct or wrongdoing. And that can go a very long way in making the administration of your estate more smooth and easy. The second consideration when choosing your executor is finding somebody who is reliable. The executor is going to have to make key decisions. They're going to have to act in a timely manner, in a methodical manner, in a logical manner. And even though they may be working together with professionals, attorneys, accountants, or financial advisors to administer the estate, those professionals are going to rely upon the executor to make sure that information is being gathered and provided to those respective individuals so that the estate can be administered in an effective and efficient manner. The next consideration is proximity. Choosing somebody who lives nearby. Now, this is not as important as it once was, even 5 years ago. After COVID, everything has changed, and most everything. In fact, we have estates where every single act that's taken on behalf of the executor can be done remotely. But if you own personal property, if you own real estate, tangible items, things that somebody's going to have to step in and take possession of or figure out what to do with. So for example, with real estate, if there's furniture and other personal belongings, whether those items are going to be sold, whether they're going to be auctioned off, or whether they're going to be distributed to beneficiaries, it can be very helpful to have an executor who lives relatively close so that they can effectively manage those assets until they can be properly dealt with. Another quality that can be important in an executor is patience. Serving as an executor can be difficult. It can be challenging, it can be frustrating, it can be overwhelming. You might be dealing with difficult beneficiaries. You're always going to be dealing with the government, which can be frustrating at times. And there are a potentially infinite number of other companies that you have to engage with. So think any bank that is holding an account, or any healthcare provider that may have an outstanding balance, a credit card company maybe with an outstanding balance, any account administrator, so retirement accounts, pensions, annuities. There are a ton of different companies that you may need to engage with during the process of estate administration. And all of them have their own unique policies and procedures and regulations. And they expect you as the executor or the attorney on your behalf to follow those rules, regulations, and policies. And so what works for one company may not work for another company and vice versa. And as the executor, you may encounter these roadblocks or barriers and have to overcome them. And in addition to that, in addition to the task-oriented challenges that you may face as serving as the executor, you also may be called upon to manage the emotional issues that some of the beneficiaries may be dealing with. They may be contacting you, wondering when they're going to get their distribution. And you have to be patient to see the process through, but you also may need to manage their perhaps unrealistic expectations of how quickly this process may unfold. And so maintaining that level of patience throughout the process can be a huge benefit in the role of an executor. The final consideration is determining whether you should name multiple executors or alternate executors. And I'm going to address both in turn. First, we'll start with alternate executors. This is somebody that in the event that your first chosen executor is unable or unwilling to serve, do you have a backup? Absolutely. Always you should have at least one alternate executor, because you don't know between the time that you sign your will and the time that you pass away whether that first chosen executor will be able or willing to serve. The second consideration is whether you should name multiple executors. Some people have 3 children that may be equally qualified to serve, and they want to name all of them. That is perfectly fine. The only consideration that I would suggest is to decide whether there may be any conflict. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to have different perspectives, and that can be helpful. But if you would anticipate that that level of conflict would boil over and ultimately serve to the detriment of the estate or to the beneficiaries, then you may want to think further about who might be best fit in that role. Lastly, I'll say you can name professionals to serve as the executor. You could name an accountant, you could name a financial advisor, you could name an attorney. All of those typically come with an added cost, but there may be good reason for doing that. If you anticipate a high level of conflict between your family and you don't really want to put someone that you love in the middle to deal with all of that, it's a good solution. Or if you simply don't have anybody in your life that you trust, you can name somebody who ideally you would have formed a professional, trusting working relationship with, so that they can step in and manage those things for you. I hope that you enjoy this content. If you did, please let me know, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.